Hi, hello, and welcome to this second session on Python. I hope you had a chance to practice what we discussed yesterday and also to do the assignment. I'm on my mobile right now, but I'll switch to computer soon. So, and if you have any questions, let me know. Okay, so we'll start now. I'll just switch to my laptop. Okay, so let's start from where we left yesterday. Any questions, anyone? No? Okay, we can start. I hope you were able to install Anaconda with this link. Okay, just a second. And you can unmute and speak. You don't have to type every time. Here's the link, workshop material link in the chat.
Sir,
Yes, yes.
if anybody is using MacBook, Mac OS, then does he need to install Anaconda or does he can use that Python one, which is already installed?
Yeah, Python is already installed, so you can use that, no problem. But if you install Anaconda, as I mentioned, there will be some advantages. You have Conda package manager, and there will be a lot of libraries you can install easily if you have Anaconda. But for this session, if you have the default Python, that's also fine.
Okay,
Okay.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, in Linux and Mac, you do get Python default by default. But if you have Anaconda, that's always. I would recommend using Anaconda because it would make rest of the things quite easier. Okay, so let's. Yeah. So I think yesterday we didn't discuss list in much detail. Let's focus on list first. List is an mutatable data type. So, in like for example, what it means is mutatable means is you can change the content of a list. And the way, let's say you have this list fruits, and you have three fruits there, and if you print the entire list, it would show you the contents of the list. But let's say if you want to print only a specific element of the list, then you can do that by specifying the index. And mind, the numbering starts from 0. So it will print grapes. Let's say you want to add some element to this list. For that, you'll use append function. Okay, this is a function. As if you remember the concept of function, there is some keyword with parentheses. That's the function, and it takes one argument, and that argument is the element that you want to add to this list. So, and these lists are ordered, so it would get added at the end. If we do fruits dot append banana, and then if we do print fruits, it would print the new list with banana at the end. Okay, so that's how we can add any number of elements in a list. And similarly, we can also remove elements from the list. Let's say if you want to remove the last element, you can do fruits dot pop. So pop function by default remove whatever is the last element. If you do fruits dot pop, it would remove the last element and you'll have the original list again. You can again call the pop function, and you will then, it would remove the last element, that is mango, and you'll be left with apple and grapes. Okay, so I hope this concept is clear, that how to add element to a list and how to remove elements from a list. Now, sometimes we have multiple lists, more than one list, and you want to combine them. So here, for example, we have veggies, and there are two veggies, okay, tomato and potato. Now, if we do append, so there is a different function we use when we combine two lists. If you want to combine these two, this time we'll be using extend. Fruits dot extend veggies. If we do this and print fruits, it would uh, it's just executing. You'll see the output. It would be. Oh, I have not executed this one. Yeah. So you see the contents of veggies gets extended in the original list. So if had we used append, let's say in this, let's say we use fruits dot end, and now I say append veggie. Now, if you look at the output, you'll see that there are three elements in fruits now. The first one we have to also do print. And these are too many stuff. Let's just initialize our fruits from here and the veggies from here. And now it will make sense. So our fruits was apple, grapes, mango, and then we did append veggies. Okay. So this has appended the list as it is as the fourth element. So this is one difference between append and extend. If you want to have entire list as an element within the list, so this list, so this in this entire list, there is another list now. But then you'll use append. But if you want to extract each of these elements of this list and then append, add to the list, that's where you use extend. Okay, so I hope this distinction between append and extend is clear. When you want to put the list as it is as a list, then you use append. But if you want to add the elements of the list to an existing list, then you use extend. Okay. So yesterday we saw this iteration. How do we iterate through the list? Now, uh, one thing I want about loops is that there are many ways to iterate. There are more than one ways to iterate through a list. So in this case, what we saw yesterday was that we are iterating through a list, and each time we assign the value of to this variable as an element of the list, and that's how we got this output. The same output can also be achieved in a different ways. For example, instead of iterating through the elements and assigning it to variable, you can iterate it based on the index as well. So first of all, let's say we have this list of numbers, and then you do you want to see check how many elements are there in the list of numbers. There are five elements. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now what you can do is you can uh, for the index 1 in range 0 comma length list of numbers print list of numbers index 1. If we do this, let's see the output. We got the numbers. Now, this might look slightly complicated, but just pay attention and you'll be able to understand what's going on. So, in the previous example, we were just iterating through the list and assigning the value to the variable for corresponding to the each element of the list. This time, we are not assigning the values of the whatever the elements to the variable. This time, we have a new variable and we call it index 1, and in so this range function. There's a range function that starts from 0 and go till the end of the whatever two numbers you give. For example, you can say range 0, comma 10. You have to print, I think, in range 0, comma 10, print x. So this range function would start from the initial index, that is 0, and go till 1 minus the second number till 9. So 0 to 9, it would create a list of 0 to 9. And that's what we are doing here. We are creating a list of from 0 till the length of the list. And then we are printing the elements using the index option. And instead of what we did previously, instead of simply going through the variable, we are also having index. Now, sometimes this approach is useful because we also need to know at times the index of the element. We just don't want the element itself, we also want the index. In those cases, this approach would be beneficial, and you can of course do those calculations that we did. Okay. I hope this concept of iterating through the list in different manners is clear to you. If you have any questions, let me know. Now, in Python, so this first there is another concept called list comprehension. So this entire thing, this exercise which we did in about 4 lines, can also be done in single line. Let me show you how. So let's say we have, what we are doing is, let's say we create new list equals and var1 asterisk 2 for var1 in list underscore. Basically, what we have done is we have taken these two statements and written it in a single line. And then if you do print new underscore list, this gives you the list of the desired output. Okay, it's the same thing, but it's in a slightly compact format. This concept is called as list comprehension. You can read about this. I mean, this is a slightly advanced version. If you're a beginner, you can just go with this one. Okay. Okay. So let's move on to the conditionals that we discussed yesterday. So we briefly discussed about this condition. So that if there is an if condition and it checks if it is true, it gets printed, and if it is false, it prints the else part. So if you run this, it says x is less than y. Now, if I make y equals 5, both are now equal, okay? Now, if I run this, it still says x is less than y. Any guess why it is saying x is less than y? Because both are equal. Any guess, anyone?
Since first statement is not true that x is greater than y, that's why it's just going in else statement that is writing x is less than y.
Yeah, so see, the condition we are checking is if this condition, if this condition is true, this would get printed. And if this condition is false, it would print this. So it doesn't care what is the whether they are equal or not. It's just going by the logic. So if this is true, print do this, and if otherwise do this. So since this is not true, so it's printing x is less than y. So
Excuse me, sir.
yeah,
In any case, if both the conditions are not true, then what will happen?
no. See, that is the point. There will be always see in this if we have given one particular condition. Now, if this condition can be true or it can be false. If it is true, then this part would get executed. And if this is false, then this would get executed. So there is no such thing as both the condition. There is only one condition, yes or no kind of a thing. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. Okay. To address this part, to address this issue, that how do we take care of this thing? That if they are equal, then we would like to print that they are equal and not x is less than y. So we need to modify our code a little bit, and that we can do by adding multiple conditions, more than one conditions. Okay, so let's look at this. So we have if x less than y colon print, oh sorry, x greater than y colon print x is greater than y. Then when you have multiple conditions, there is a new keyword here, elif. So it's else if, short form of else if. Else if, again else if takes a condition, just like if statement, elif statement also needs a condition. So we say x less than y colon print x is less than y. And then finally we say else print x is equal to y. Now if you run this, we'll get the desired output that x is equal to y. The point is you can have multiple conditions, and at the end only one of these get executed. So it would never be that two of these would be executed or all three would be executed. Always any one of these, depending on the condition, would get executed. So that's the concept of nested or these multiple if else statements. Okay, I hope this is clear. If you have any questions, let me know. Okay, so now we understand the if part, and some also have understanding of for loop. There is another loop called while loop. So while loop is slightly different from for loop in that it has an implicit if condition in it. There is the loop goes on for a till a particular condition is met. So for example, let's say we have x equals to 5, and then we have while x greater than 2 colon, and just like for loop and if, we have indentation, print x, and then x equals to x minus 1, and then run this. So it starts with 5 because x is 5, so it prints 5, and then it decreases the value of x by 1. So in the next iteration x is 4, and in the next iteration x is 3, and in the next iteration x is 2, and when x is 2, this condition is false. So therefore it would not execute that with it won't print 2, and it would just print the loop is over. Okay, so I hope you got this, how this while loop works. So whenever you are working with while loop, so it's generally, sometimes let's say you're asking for password and you want to continue asking for password until the password matches. So you, in those cases, you continue this while loop forever, and you compare the user input with the password that you have in a database within the while loop. And whenever you are executing while loop, make sure that there is something within the while loop to change this condition. Because for example, if we delete this part, now this would be an infinite loop. This program would never terminate, because this condition would never become false. So it would keep printing 555 every time. So whenever you're using while loop, just keep in mind this thing, that you change the condition within the while loop so that it gets terminated. Okay. Some statements to control the execution of loops. That, for example, we want to, let's say, do particular run particular code for a specific number of times. But if some condition is met, we don't want to do that. let's take an example and understand those things. So let's say we have for x in range 1 to 10. So we have these 10 numbers, and we say if x equals to 5 colon continue. This continue is a keyword in Python, and then we say print x, and then we say print done. So this statement is indented. So therefore this is part of the for loop, and this is double intended because this is part of the if loop, if statement as well, and this is single indent. This is part of the for loop. Okay, let's run this. We get 1 2 3 4 6 7 8 9. So what this means is that it would iterate through this range of numbers 1 to 9 actually. So this is just like we saw in slice, that it's 1 minus the last endpoint. So it's 1 to 9, and it would print x. But if within this iteration at any point if x is equal to 5, then it would just continue. So this continue statement tells that you stop at this point and go back to the for loop and don't execute the remaining statements within the for loop. That's the concept of continue. So if you look at this loop, you have 1. So because it's starting with 1, so at 1, it would go inside for loop. This condition is false. This continue would not get executed, and it would print 1. Then it would go back to this. The value would be 2. Again, print 2. And so on. When the value would be 5, this condition would be true, and this continue statement would be executed. And since this print x is after continue, so this 5 would not get printed. So I hope the concept of continue is clear.
Sir, please tell me about continue again.
Okay. So see, let's say, let's just remove this part. Okay, let's just run this for loop, and we say for x in range 1 to 10, print x, and then done. It does 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9. This is what we expected. Now let's say we want to print uh, these numbers, but we don't want to print 5. So in that case, how we can do that? So that's where this continue concept comes in, that we put that if, and continue basically is that you stop the execution of for loop for the rest of the statements. Let's say if x equals to 5, and then continue. If we do this, at any stage if x becomes equals to 5, it would uh,
Stop the statement.
it would stop the rest of the loop. So for example, let's add another print statement here to make it clear. Let's say loop, and we also say and equals comma. So let's now run this. You see this? We have loop 1. So why loop 1? Because when the for loop started, it's first printed loop, and we added and, so there was no new line. So this comma got printed, and this condition was false because x is 1, and then 1 got printed. So in the next iteration of the loop, the x value is 2, so it prints loop, comma, 2, and so on. Now, when the x value becomes 5, in that case, it would print loop, this loop, comma, and then this if condition is there, if x equal to 5, continue. And so, since this continue is here, it would go back to this for loop and make x 6, and the print, this statement would not get executed for 5 when x is equal to 5. That's why we don't see 5 here, and we just see loop.
Okay.
Okay. So continue
Like
is,
in
yeah,
this if statement, we have take like x double equal to 5
yeah,
equal to,
yeah,
but it means like comparison. But
yeah.
we are taking why we don't take single equal to?
See, single equal to is for assignment. So single equal to here means that you want to assign a value of
Okay,
I
okay,
to x. Huh. So in if
okay,
conditions, you do not assign. In if condition, you do comparison.
okay, okay.
Yeah, yeah. Similarly, we can do any comparison. 4. So you'll see that 4 point, the 4 is not printed and everything else gets executed. Okay. So
Yes.
that's the concept of continue statement. Now, there is another statement similar to continue, and that is break statement. So let's see how that works. For example, we have this for x in range 1 to 10. If x equals to 5 colon break, and then we say print x. And if we run this, it says 1, 2, 3, 4, and done. So again the same concept, but instead of continue, what break does is it breaks the entire for loop. So we started with this for x in range 1 to 10. So first x is 1. So this condition is false and it prints 1. And in the second iteration x is 2, it would print 2 and so on. And when x is 5, so this condition would be true and this break would get executed. So this break would break the entire for loop. I mean, there would be no further for loop, and that's why we see done. That's the difference between continue and break. So continue would stop the execution only for that particular uh, iteration, and the rest of the for loop would continue. While break would stop the iteration for the entire for loop whenever that condition is true. Okay, so that's the concept of break and continue. Okay, I hope you were able to do the assignment that I gave yesterday. Any difficulty, anyone? This was the assignment, right? A program to take that takes two numbers as input and print the result of their comparison. Basically, it's the same thing that we saw here, and instead of giving numbers, we just say input enter first number and here is a put, and we can change this data type to int. So if you run this, it would ask for a number, let's say 4, and then it would ask for a second number 6, and then would say x is less than y. Or instead of x and y, because you can also change this to the first number is uh, less than y, or first number is less than second number, and so on. You can change the print statements. Okay, this was the assignment. And one more thing, that sometimes we need to do some formatted print. For example, we have x equals 6, y equals 5, and let's say z equals x plus y. Now, what we are doing is we have two numbers and we have the sum of the two numbers. Now we want to print that sum of uh, 5 and 6 is whatever is the sum. So how do we write that? Because we cannot write here like the sum of 5 and 6 is, I mean, we can do this calculation easily here, 11, but that doesn't make sense because we want these, whatever is the output, to be automatically get into the print statement. So to do that, we can use the concept of formatted strings. So in the beginning you put F, and then you write the string, and then you say this sum of, and whenever you have a variable, you put it in curly braces, x and y is z. Now this is a formatted string or f string in Python. We call it f strings. So f string, if we write this thing, the sum of x and y is z, it would automatically take the value of these variables and put it here. So let's run this. It says sum of 6 and 5 is 11. And if we change the value of a variable, that would automatically get reflected in output. Okay. I hope it makes sense.
So what's the meaning of formatted string that we have put F here?
So formatted string is that we are formatting the text. So this, if we don't put, let's say this F, if we remove the F, now if you print this, it's printing the exact same thing.
Okay.
There is no change. There is no formatting. So
Okay.
if we put F, now it is an F string or formatted string, and now there these curly braces and X and Y, they have special meanings. These curly braces means that there is a variable inside these braces, and instead of printing the text X, put the value of X, and similarly instead of printing Y, print the value of Y. That's why
Okay.
when we run this, it shows like this.
Okay.
Okay. Any questions? Anyone? Let me just share this. Okay, so an assignment for today is, you can note this down. Take a list of 10 numbers, first 10 numbers, and print the square for even numbers. Just note this down and we'll try to do this assignment. Meanwhile, let me just share this. Uh, okay, I'm sharing the next one. Okay. So what we have seen so far is we were working with some whatever variables we were using, they were within the program, that we were using x equals to something, y equals to something, or so on, and there was list, and everything was within the code. But that's not how programming works. You know, many times you need to take data from file. You need to read files, write files. You want to save your work. You just don't print it. You also want to save your work. So that's where this file handling comes in. So you should understand the concept how to work with files. So to work with files, and for example to read, what was that? I got this something in the chat. Let me just see. Assignment. The assignment today's or yesterday's? Okay, go back. I think you won't, but I just showed you that one. Okay, today. Just a second. Maybe I can just type in the chat. this is the assignment. Take a list of first 10 numbers and print the square for even numbers. Pretty easy, pretty straightforward that you'll have to iterate through the list and check if the number is even, and if it is even, then you need to print the square. File handling is not there, I'll add that. As of now, it's not there. Let's go back to the file handling notebook. Okay. Yeah. So I was saying that you have to uh, work with files. So you need to know how to read files and write files. So to work, when you are working with files, uh, first thing you need to do is you need to open a file. And when you open a file, you have to assign it to a file handler. So basically, it's a variable. It could be any name. I have named it, for example, fh1. This could be any variable name. And then we say fh1 equals open. And then within open, you need to give at least two arguments. And those two arguments are that file name that you want to open and comma the mode in which you want to open. For example, you want to read a file or you want to write a file. So in this case, I'm using this file text file test underscore file1.txt, and I want to open this file in a read mode. So if I do this and say print fh1, let's run this. So it has not shown me the content of the file, rather it has shown me that this is an input output wrapper or file handler, and it points to this file text test underscore file1.txt, and its mode is R. So I have opened this file in read mode. So whenever you open a file in a read mode, you will be only able to read the file. You won't be able to write anything in this file. So just to show you the contents of this file, pretty straightforward, nothing special. Yes, underscore file. This file has two sentences only. This is a test file for Python. This file has a .exe extension. This is the content of the file. So let's see how we can access those contents programmatically. So when you open this um, file, file handler, and then you can do this for lines in this file handler, whatever variable you have used, colon, print lines, and then you close the file. So this was, it gets prints like this. This is a test file for Python. This file has .exe extension. This was my file. So you can try this with your own, any of your own file as well. If you have any text file, or you can create your own new file in Notepad and write a couple of sentences, just dummy sentences, and see if it's working for you. So all you have to do is, so this would be like, and this file handler would take the entire file, and that entire thing would be like a array or like a list, and then you can iterate through this list like this for lines in this list fh1 colon, and then we say print line. So one by one each line would get printed here, and then we say fh1 dot close. Okay.
Sir, if this program works for a CSV file also.
Yes, any file, any text file. It won't work for like MS DOS, doc file or PPT files, but if you have a text file, this would work.
Okay.
CSV or any text. So this is how. Uh, so one thing you might have noticed is that, let me just again open the file, original file, reload. see there are some extra spaces here, and that's because of the print. Because when print this line, it prints the line, and then it adds a space as well. Next, it goes to the next line. So that's why this has some extra blank space compared to this one. So this, by the way, this file has three lines. First line is this one. Second line is the blank line. This blank line is also considered, and then finally it has a this third line. So you can remove the extra spaces if you want using the this backslash n is called as a new line character, and that can be used to remove the extra spaces after every line. Because when we save this file as a text file, we don't see this, but here you have after every line there is a new line character like this. I mean, we don't see this, but that's how a program knows that it has to go to the next line. So this next line character can be removed using our strip method. I'll show you that in the next part. So let's say, okay, this was about reading the file. Now let's say you want to write a file. So how we can write this? So again, similar concept that we have to open a file, and let's call it temp underscore file.txt. This you can also do now because you don't need an existing file. And mind it, whenever you open up, and this time we use it open it in a write mode. We put specify w here. Now, if the file is not there, it would create a new file. If the file is there, it would overwrite that file. So make sure you specify the right file name correct file name whenever you're using the this w option, because if the file exists, it would just overwrite whatever you write here. So you lose your content of the existing file. So if I do this, this is again a variable name fh underscore out. It could be any variable name equals open, then name of the file that I want to write, and the mode is w because I want to write this file. Now to write in a file, the function we use is write. So what we say is fh underscore out this variable name file handler dot write, and then what is it that we want to write? Whatever we want to write. So this goes. It's almost like print statement, but instead of printing on screen, it is printing in a file. Okay. So this is the first sentence, and in print statement, this backslash n is there by default. Whenever we print on screen, it automatically goes to the next line. But in write, the default new line is not there. So if you want to go to the next line, you have to manually specify this backslash n. So we say fh underscore out dot write. This is the first sentence. Backslash n quotes close, parenthesis close, and then fh out dot write. This is the second sentence. Backslash n, so on. And you can just, I'll explain this later. And then fh underscore out dot close. So now if we execute this, we'll have a new file created in our directory. You should have a new file, temp underscore file.txt. You can check that. And if you want to see the contents of this file, again the same concept that we saw in the read file, that fh2 equals open temp underscore file.txt, and then read mode, and then print lines. So this is the first sentence, this is the second sentence. Okay. So I hope this is working for you, that how you can write files and you're able to write files. Any questions on this? No? Okay. Yeah.
The underscore in the file name is compulsory?
No, it's not compulsory. Just make sure you don't have spaces. I mean, don't do this. Temp space file.txt, that is not allowed. So just to make it more readable, I have put underscore. We can have this also, temp file. This would work
Sir,
fine.
because I was trying to open a file in my computer, but because I was not able to open it. So is it because it has spaces in the name?
I think that could be a problem, because you should avoid spaces in file names. So you can either rename the file or something else you can do, or you can just replace spaces with underscore, because if there is a space uh, like this temp file.txt, then it might have some error, trouble opening the file. You can try changing the file name, or you can create a new file with some different name.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. So
Sir, I have a question.
yes,
Uh, like in the first we have created a variable fh out in which
yes,
we have write the sentence like this is a first sentence and this is a second sentence.
yeah,
In the next cell, we have created variable fh2
yeah,
and we use for loop and we used temporary variable lines in
uh,
fh2.
right.
But how it prints the sentence that was stored in a variable fh out, but we
Okay,
have used for loop for fh2.
okay, okay. So see, this fh underscore out is a file handler. Okay, this is, so nothing's get. This is just a file handler. File handler means that it is a, a variable for the file. This file temp file.txt. This
Okay,
fh2 is for this file. This is not like x is equal to 5, not like that kind of variable. This variable is
okay,
points to the file. So, and when we write this, it writes to the file, and it is not writing to the variable. This
okay,
sentence goes to this file. And moreover, finally, when we do this fh underscore out dot close, this is important. Okay, every time we open a file, we must close this. So when we do this close, this fh out is gone from the memory. It doesn't exist anymore. So
okay,
so that's why this fh out is closed here. Now this basically means that this file is also saved. Now when we do this, this is a new variable fh2 again. This could be anything, and again this file, this points to this file, and it has nothing to do with fh out or anything else.
okay.
Yeah, so that's the concept.
Okay, so the information that was in file handler fh out was stored in fh2 handler.
No. The information that was in file handler and fh out was stored in this file.
Okay,
Yeah, okay, file handler information always goes to the file, and
okay,
the
okay,
difference is this is write mode and this is read mode. So
okay, okay, okay,
this is fh2 is in the read mode. That's why we can do this for loop. Here we cannot do these for. If I do here like for lines in fh underscore out, and then I do print lines and so on. So this would be an error. Why this would be an error? Because this fh out is open in write mode, and it cannot read the file. To read the file, we have to open the file in the write mode, like we do here. Okay.
okay, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So this was about reading and writing. Let's say we have, so for example, we have written this file. Now we want to add to this file. If you remember the write mode, it would, if you again open this file in write mode, it would delete everything that is there in the file. We don't want that. We want to add more sentences to the file. So in that case, we'll use the A option, append. So let's, so here syntax is pretty similar to the right one, like the W mode. So we say fh underscore out equals open the same file name that we used before, temp underscore file dot txt, temp underscore file dot txt, and this time we are using append mode. And then we write some more sentences here. This is the third sentence, this is the fourth sentence, and then we say fh out dot close. So when we run this, now our file temp underscore file dot txt would have these two sentences in addition to the previous one. So we can again open a file in the read mode, the same file temp underscore file dot txt, and we can see that it says this is the first sentence, this is the second sentence, third sentence, and the fourth sentence. And few things that you might have noticed here is, first is this \t. This is just a tab character, so that's why we're seeing this extra space. And the next is, this time we are not directly printing lines. We are saying that strip the \n. So if we, let's say, uh, remove this, you'll see some extra spaces. So to get rid of those extra spaces, we can use the rstrip command to to get the actual content of the file. Okay.
Okay.
Any questions on this reading, writing, appending to file? No? Okay. Stop sharing this. So let's go back to the assignment. We share the download link for Anaconda and Python. See, the Anaconda and Python download links are there in the workshop material link. If you scroll down the workshop material link, you will find the links for Anaconda and Python and everything. Just back to the assignment. Any thoughts on how we can have this assignment? We can accomplish this. We have list of 10 numbers and we want to print the even numbers, a square of even numbers. Any guess how we can achieve this? So if you have gone through the operators and variables part, yeah, so you have, yes. So, and this can be made, so let's, in this, the output, you have manually created a list. So instead of, because I have given 10 numbers, let's say if I've given 1,000, then what would you have done?
Sir, I can give a suggestion.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
if we use a for loop and if we assign a temporary variable x and use remainder is equal to 0, like x divided by 2, and remainder is equal to 0, then we get a
yes,
list
yes,
of even numbers.
yeah. And but also the one of the code that is,
Scarce.
yeah, this square that, yeah, I into I, yeah. But
Yeah.
if yeah, instead of a cube, we could have also, then if we had if I would have asked print the cube, then there's a operator for squares and cubes as well. Let me just go back. Let me just go to this. So for example, we say number one equals range uh, 1 to 11. So this is in first, we create a list. Okay. Now why 1 to 11? If you remember, it starts from 1 and
Minus 1,
it
11
would
minus
go
1
till,
equals
yeah,
10.
yes, correct. That's why we say range 1 to 11. Next, what we do is, now we want to see the condition, print the square for even numbers. So first thing, we'll need to iterate through this list. So for x in num1 colon. Now we need to have some condition if, as he said, one of the participants said, that we need to check whether divide by 2 and remainder is 0. So x divided by, so this is actually a modulo operator, this percentage symbol. This is not a division operator, this is modulo. So the modulo operator gives you the reminder of the two things. For example, uh, let me just, yeah, is there a question? No. So let's say we, hello? No, okay. So
Instead of modular operator, can't we take increment of 2?
Increment of 2 where?
While doing a for loop.
So where do I do increment of 2? Like if I need to check that we can do increment of 2, but how would we code that? There are different ways to do that as well. I'll go into the increment part, but let's just focus on the modulo approach first. By the way, modulo is like something like this. 4 modulo 2 gives you a remainder of 0, because if you divide 4 by 2, the remainder is 0. But if you divide 5 by 2, the remainder is 1. So the modulo operator gives you the remainder. So what we do is we say x modulo 2 equals to 0. Here what we are checking is if we divide the number by 2 and the remainder is 0, this would be true only if the number is even. Okay. And then we say print, and because you want to print the square, we say x double asterisk 2. And if you run this, we get the square of even numbers. Okay. This is first approach. Now the increment part. That increment part can be fitted into the step range function as a step. So by default, the step started 1. If we started 1, would be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But if we do of 2 from 1, then we'll go to 3, and then 5, and then 7 and 9. So we'll get odd numbers. So we need to change the range like this. And then we can remove the if condition and make this indentation like this. Again, the same output. Does that make sense? The range function part, how we got this thing. So we have included the increment to increment within the range function. So instead of getting the entire list, we only have now the even numbers because we have included the step argument in the range function. Okay. Hope it makes sense. Any questions, anyone? So tomorrow we'll be using BioPython, and so if you haven't already installed BioPython, you should just open Anaconda Prompt and there type this command: install BioPython. pip install BioPython on Anaconda Prompt, or if you're on Linux or Mac, just on a terminal you can type this. So this would install BioPython library, and we'll need this library for tomorrow's session.
Sir, is that library will work on Google Colab?
I think it would work. You can just in Google Colab, you can just type this command and see if it is installing BioPython. I think it
Okay.
installs. It would install on your Google Drive. Just check if you are able to run. If this command executes successfully, you'll be able to use BioPython on Google Colab as well. But
Okay,
I would
sir.
again recommend that you have a downloadable on your computer. If you can install Python, that would be the best thing, because it would be helpful for you in future as well.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Any other questions? Any doubts? Nothing. Okay, then we'll start with the BioPython part. You can go through this workshop material link and check the BioPython section in the workshop material link and see if you are able to follow that. And we'll work on that tomorrow. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone. Can you show how to use Anaconda Prompt? Okay. Anaconda Prompt, actually, that's on Windows. So you can just I'm not on Windows, so I won't be able to show you the prompt. But if you go to the start menu, you can just search for Anaconda prompt. And or maybe I think you are saying how to use it on a terminal. Let me just. Are you okay? Just wait. Let me just show you. Just a second. Let me just share my terminal. Okay. So here I have terminal. In this you can create a file, Python file. Let's say I have this test.py, and if you want to run this Python program, you'll have to say Python space test.py, and it would execute whatever program you have. Is that what you're asking? How to run on terminal? Okay. I hope if you have any questions, let me know. I think this is if that's what you wanted. So you can, if you have any program, any Python program, and you want to run it on Anaconda prompt on terminal, just have that program. Like here I have test.py, and this content is print hello, and I can just run this. Okay. And this should work on Anaconda prompt as well.
Yeah.
Okay. All right then. Thank you everyone. I'll see you tomorrow. Goodbye.
Bye.